Welcome, everybody, to Walking Between Shadows. We're your host. I'm Ben.
I'm Taryn.
And this episode takes us back to the 13th district of the state of Tennessee.
Yes, it does.
And before we get started, Taryn, I think it's smart for us to let everybody know that this is a trigger warning video. So we want people to be cautious when they watch this.
There's going to be some graphic photos and us talking a little bit about things that are pretty harsh.
Yep. And I want to start out too by saying, we appreciate everybody out there, especially those that return or leave comments. But most importantly, share the video. So don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Click that notifications bell, and please, please, please share these videos. That's an important part of this because these victims and their families need us as a group to share this and get the word out about all this.
That's right. And I've been talking with Lisa Key, and she's given me a lot of information on her son Aaron's case that we're going to cover today. And while I've been doing the research on this, I found a case in the Kansas City area, Noel Ishkantana, very similar to the one we're going to cover today. I'm going to cover that next week.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, good deal.
Yeah.
Well, Taryn, so like I said, we're back in the beautiful state of Tennessee in the 13th district.
Just seems like there's so much,
yeah,
and there is.
Yeah, and every time you study on one of these cases, you get layers and layers and layers added to it of not just within the case, but with other cases.
Been really heavy since we started doing this in the 13th district.
Yeah.
It's been really heavy.
Yeah.
And the more I find out and the more I get to know the families involved of the victims, yeah, I really like these people, these women that I've talked to. And I just think the louder we are and the more we put this out there and group together, unite in this, we can maybe figure out something. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a good theme there because I think all this group collectively needs to really focus on how they can work together and pool their resources. It looks like, some of these cases, not all of them, some of them have dispositions, or, been through court and, people have been charged and convicted of crimes. But in cases like Aaron Shane Key, we're seeing that there's potential that these families could group together and maybe start using their resources to get the answers they're looking for.
Yes.
All of them have approached the DA's office there in that district.
Right.
And they've approached investigators, police, private investigators, investigative journalists, and they're just not getting anywhere.
Right.
It seems.
That's right.
And in cases that we've done before, in cases that we are watching closely now, when those people collectively use their resources to maybe hire an attorney.
Maybe so.
Yeah. They seem to get action.
Right.
So again, we're not attorneys. We're not giving people advice, and we only take advice from attorneys that we know. And everything that we share in these podcasts, we have permission from friends or families, and maybe even friends of the families. And in some cases, we've talked to law enforcement, and we've gotten cooperation to a degree, maybe not much, but we've been there, done that. So let's set the stage of Hillam, Tennessee, and exactly where it is, so people get an idea of what we're talking about.
Okay.
That all this is occurring in a relatively small, tiny community.
Well, Hillam, Tennessee has got like 300 and something people. That's the population.
Yeah, it's nothing. So anyway, this first map that you guys see, you'll see that Hillam is located north of Cookeville. So at the bottom of that map to the left, you'll see Cookeville, and it's only about 20 miles from Cookeville up to Hillam. And then you'll notice that Livingston, Tennessee is almost due east of there, but I've put on the map that it's less than 10 miles.
Right.
And so Hillam is northwest of Livingston, Tennessee. Now, let's throw another map up here and try to help explain just what a small area this is.
Okay.
So this next map shows where Turkeytown Road is located from Hillam, Tennessee. So going west out of Hillam, it's only about 2.5 miles from Hillam to basically Turkeytown Road.
Right. And Turkeytown Road is what, 5.2 miles?
Yeah, yeah. And you'll notice on this map that yellow line is what comes from right to left or left to right, depending on how you're seeing this in the video. The yellow line is from the Ledbetter house back to Hillam. And then there's a small red line from the Ledbetter house to Aaron Shane Key. So this next map actually zooms in and shows that piece of it too. And it's labeled down at the bottom right of the Turkeytown Road second map. You'll see that the Ledbetter house is that bottom marker.
Right.
And from the Ledbetter house up to the shed where Aaron Shane Key was found is only 0.61 miles.
That's it.
So that's how close and what a relatively small area we're talking about here. And this is all in Overton County, Tennessee.
And people that can't see this, they're listening to this on audio. You know, you might want to go back if you want to see the layout of this area.
Yep. Yeah. Or, you know, if you're just interested and you can't see our video even, just go on Google and Google Hillam, Tennessee. And just west out of Hillam, Tennessee, you'll see Turkeytown Road in this area that we're talking about.
A small speck, and there it is. Right. So much tragedy there, too.
So in this case, Aaron Shane Key, 41 of Hillam, Tennessee, passed away on Friday, April the 5th, 2019 in Overton County. The law enforcement theory from D.A. Dunaway and the Overton County Sheriff's Department is that Aaron himself in this storage shed we're talking about on Turkeytown Road in Hillam, or just out of Hillam. Although Aaron Key's mother, Lisa, begs to differ, she's left with numerous questions and constantly wonders what really happened to her son.
Yeah. Aaron was 41 years old, like you said, and he had been living in this home on Turkeytown Road for about a year, 2018 to 2019. And in January of 2019, Aaron starts opening up to his mom, Lisa, and telling her that, well, first he's telling her that I'm staying here because my girlfriend. So those two were both living there. There were several residents at this home. And he was also helping out his cousin who had gotten a manufacturing charge. So it makes me wonder if he was working as a CI at that time. And he starts telling his mom that he had been blindfolded at one point and taken to this island. I don't know where that was located, but there's bodies of water around this area. And he gets to the island and he walks off into the woods with these people, and there's these 55-gallon blue barrels. You know what I'm talking about. And inside those barrels were children that were shackled, young children. And
they were alive in these barrels, shackled.
Alive in these barrels in the woods on this island.
Okay. So have you heard that they were in a like a shed, a home, or were they just out in the woods?
Out in the woods.
Oh my God.
Right. So he tells his mom this, and he says, you know, after coming back from this area, he is approached by two people. One, a deputy from Overton County Sheriff's Department by the name of Shane Barlow, and another was one of the residents that lived in this home with him at Turkeytown Road by the name of Russell Cox. And they asked him to kidnap children, girls from the ages of 6 to 9. And they were going to use these girls for trafficking.
Yeah, so this was to supply their sex trafficking.
Right. Which is terrifying. Aaron refuses. There's no way, he said, I'm not doing this, you know. And they threaten him and tell him that they're going to hurt his family. And he says, well, if you hurt my family, if anything happens to my family, I will, I'll tell everybody everything I know. So he's telling his mom this back in January. And he'd been telling her this, and she says, well, you need to leave. And he says, I'm in too deep. And
yeah, he can't.
He can't. So at the end of March, he tells his mom, he says, if anything happens to me, I want you to get in touch with a detective at the Overton County Sheriff's Department by the name of Derek Sidwell.
Mm-hmm.
And
Why would he do that? I mean, do you think he did that because this guy was straight and narrow, or?
that's what I wonder. I wonder if he wasn't on to what was going on
Yeah.
with maybe one of the deputies and this trafficking. And,
Mm-hmm.
it makes me wonder if he didn't have an idea of what was going on and maybe wanted to do something about it.
Yeah.
And
So
was going
there could have been an internal investigation going on, a tug of war
right.
between them.
And it makes me wonder if maybe Aaron and him were talking about all this, and
Yeah.
he knew what was going on with Aaron, or if Aaron was doing this work for him as a CI for
Yeah.
his cousin.
Yeah.
That I don't know.
Well, there's a rule: a good investigator won't let you know when they know you're lying, and maybe this was just part of the tactic.
Right.
You know.
And this house he was living in with his girlfriend, there was a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was a known drug house since the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was just and we looked at the house on, on Google Map. You can see that it was a lot going on, a lot of vehicles and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, by the end of March, he had, told his mom this, and then he also calls one of his friends. And he tells him, I want to come spend the night with you. I need to get out of here tonight. And he goes and spends the night with his friend. And he says, if anything happens to me,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it. And don't let this go.
Mm-hmm.
So, April the 3rd. Oh, I mean, can you imagine living in all this chaos in this home with all these people and your girlfriend? And he goes walking in, and his girlfriend, she catches her cheating on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the 4th, he gets into an argument with his cousin and another guy living in the home. They were picking on one of Aaron's friends. Aaron came back and said, he's the only one here that's going to make anything of himself. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
And so, he's pissed about that. There was a lot going on. So on the 5th, he wakes up and he decides he's leaving. I'm done with this. And he asks somebody there to drive him to his dad's house.
Mm-hmm.
So this driver takes him to his dad's and drops him off and says, hey, since you're leaving, come back around 5 p.m. this afternoon and I'll give you your rent money back, the $200 that you paid for rent this month.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes in, hangs out with his dad all day, and his dad takes him back over to the house around 5 o'clock. 4:55, I believe, is when he dropped him off. And him and Aaron were joking on the way about Aaron's shoes. He had on some Chuck Norris's. His dad said he didn't like them.
Uh-huh.
He also was wearing some blue jeans and a blue thermal shirt and a brand new Realtree hat.
Yep.
He goes and kisses his dad goodbye, tells him he loves him, and he goes in the house and says, come back and get me in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Before he goes in the house, come back and get me in 30 minutes.
Yep.
His dad goes back to where he was at. I don't think he was at home, but he was going back to another location. And by the time he got back there, he'd already got a phone call from somebody at the residence saying that Aaron was gone.
Mm-hmm.
He was dead.
Mm-hmm.
He hung himself.
Mm-hmm. So after that call, or sometime around that call, maybe even, that's when this 911 call was placed.
Right. So the girlfriend claims that Aaron came into the home after his dad dropped him off and immediately started arguing with her and says, you're going to watch this, and grabs her by the hand and takes her out to the back shed behind the house. And there he climbs a 16-foot pole and ties a noose with one hand because his right wrist was broken.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to climb this pole with this broken wrist and 16 feet up and tie this noose.
Yeah. Once he got to the top of that pole, he had to reach 4.5 feet out where that rope was.
Right.
Or where it wound up. But supposedly he climbed up, reached 4.5 feet out to tie this noose with a broken right wrist.
With a broken right wrist.
Mm-hmm.
And so his girlfriend is trying to get him down, according to what she says at first. She's trying to get him down, and he's kicking at her. He's kicking her. And he gets his foot stuck, and he stops kicking, and she runs in the house and tells everybody there that they need to call 911, and nobody will do anything. So she runs another 100 yards up to her family's home and tells them to call and has someone call 911 if it's not her.
Right. Several people lived in this house at the time of the death, and a 911 call mentions a big fight. A 911 transcript says, now they're all out here fighting. There are 5 people out here. And there were people leaving the scene before the police even arrived. They're all on meth, and they've been fighting for the past week, the 911 call says.
They're fighting? How many people are fighting? There's 5 people out here.
And people leaving the scene before police arrive.
They're all on meth and stuff, and they've been fighting for the past week out here.
Interestingly enough, Aaron's toxicology proved that he didn't have meth in his system, and his face had suddenly had these unusual patterns of abrasions, contusions, and lacerations of the eyelids. They said 2-week-old puppies caused blunt force trauma to the side of his face. 2-week-old puppies.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they don't even know if they can see. I mean, even 5-6-week-old puppies. I mean,
yeah.
And why wasn't the scene protected? You would think he would be covered, but that's not what happened.
Right.
So once his dad got this phone call, he goes back to the residence to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
This all happened in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And when he gets there, Aaron is on the ground.
Yeah. Now, an interesting point to make there is, remember a while ago when you said he went into the house from his dad's custody, more or less. His dad witnessed what he had on, what he was wearing.
Right.
It was a blue plaid shirt, right?
A blue thermal.
A thermal.
Mm-hmm.
And blue jeans.
Right.
And Chuck Norris shoes.
Right.
And a brand new hat.
Right.
Okay. This is a piece of an ace bandage laying on the ground that his mother went back and got, and you can explain a little more about what she did.
Mm-hmm.
But the question here is, he went in with one set of shoes on and now is out with a set of boots on, and this ace bandage that he had wrapped around his ankle is now free from his body.
Right.
So at some point, his shoes got changed.
Yes.
That ace bandage got removed and discarded.
Right. Shirt got changed.
Shirt got changed.
Where's the blue thermal shirt?
Yep.
I mean, was there too much blood on it? Did you have to take that off and change him? Is my question. And all these people, okay, so all these people.
So you can see where this investigation is going awry. They didn't secure the scene.
Right.
They didn't collect evidence.
Did not.
Didn't cover the body.
And law enforcement did not cut him down either.
He was already down on the ground.
He was already on the ground.
Yeah.
He was already on the ground. Yes.
Yeah. So that brings to question, if he had hung himself, why is he on the ground?
Right.
Because the rope didn't apparently break. You know, there's no proof or evidence that the rope broke. Right. It was probably cut by somebody who was there on scene.
Right.
And so that's another, point to make, is this whole thing about him climbing up and tying this rope. So I want you guys to reference or look at this picture that we're about to put up of the shed itself. And, where the rope was hanging on the beam was, again, 4.5 feet out away from the pole that he supposedly climbed up or allegedly climbed up.
And tied with one hand.
And tied with one hand.
Yes.
These pictures are showing this rope. And I think it's a good time to point out that Aaron was not a small guy.
Not at all.
Right. So he was how tall?
6'6".
He was 6'6".
245 pounds.
Yeah, 245 pounds. So in this picture, what you're seeing is the rope that was still there when law enforcement got there, was still there when his dad got back there, was still there when his mom went out to probably collect evidence. Maybe.
Yes, several days later.
All right. This rope would have cinched tight.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and this is a loose loop around that beam.
Yes, it is.
That's a slip knot.
Yes.
That rope would have tightened up, even if he didn't jump from anything and just basically stepped into it.
Right.
This rope proves a lot of things.
Yes, it does.
Okay. But yet nobody has seemed to want to investigate that.
No,
Okay.
no. So he laid out there from 5:30, 5:30, 5:45
Mm-hmm.
until like 1:30 in the morning. He was out there for 8 hours,
Mm-hmm.
just laying there exposed.
Mm-hmm. And they're saying that other things occurred here, but we'll get to that in a second.
Right.
So,
So this happened on a Friday.
mm-hmm.
And this whole weekend, Lisa is trying to process this. She's accepted that her son, and she goes to the funeral home and she's talking to the mortician there who tells her, in 25 years, I've never seen anything like this. The hyoid bone is not broken.
But about the hyoid, it wasn't just that. There's a statement from her and him, meaning the mortician, saying that even the soft tissues around the hyoid bone had suffered no damage.
No damage.
Stress.
His eyes.
Mm-hmm.
There was no damage to his eyes. Usually, what's it called when they had the...
Petechial hemorrhaging.
Right, there was none of that. And
okay, but all right, with his eyes, I don't know, did they really determine that? Because there was a lot of damage to his eyes.
Right, there was a lot of damage to his eyes.
And the damage resembled somebody who had been severely beaten.
I mean, like, there was a gash that started above his eye and went through his eye down his cheek.
Mm-hmm.
So it went through his eyelid and everything. And then the other eye looked like it just deflated.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then cheekbone broken. He had a broken nose. The mortician said he looks like he's been in one hell of a fight.
Yep.
And that's nothing he's ever seen with anything, any other hanging in 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, he made it clear in all of his experience he'd never seen a victim of hanging look like this.
Right.
But it looked like he'd been in a hell of a fight.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, like, she goes back. So Lisa goes back to this residence, to the house,
mm-hmm.
and she starts realizing that evidence is left everywhere.
Yeah.
That they did nothing. I mean, she finds Aaron's hat. She finds blood,
mm-hmm.
bloody tissue, the ace bandages that were over his feet that he always wore because he had wounds that wouldn't heal in his feet. And he always left ace bandages on, and they were there. There was bloody tissue there. I mean, there was several things going on that, it needed to be looked at, majorly need to be looked at.
But yet none of those clothing items he went into the scene with were found, or nothing's ever been said about them.
And it seems to be a trend there to rob off people's bodies. I don't know. We covered, a couple cases when we did the 13th Judicial last week, of how people were robbed of everything after they were gone, after their life was taken from them. And I just have a very hard time believing with Aaron that in 30 minutes, he goes from kissing his dad, saying, I love you, come back to get me in 30 minutes. Big guy, 6'6", takes up for people, didn't have meth in his system. So he wasn't using meth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like to your point about people robbing bodies, these next pictures here show, she said that he wore like a 1-carat diamond stud in his ear. And these pictures show where it's been jerked out of his ear.
His earlobe's been jerked out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, taken off. So they did that too.
Yeah, and I do want to back up a little bit on this picture showing his earlobe being ripped out. It also shows his neck. And again, there's no ligature marks. There are no ligature marks.
None. They planned this. And I'm going to say it exactly like I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
They told him to come back at 5:00 to get his money.
That was the lure, getting him back in. Yeah.
Getting him back in.
Yeah, because he'd already seen his girlfriend cheating on him and been in an argument with his cousin. He didn't want to be there.
I mean, he was already there. He told his mom he was already there to try to help his cousin get out of a manufacturing charge. He wasn't using. There was nothing in his system.
No.
He did not have meth in his system.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make that clear because it needs to be said.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go judging. And yeah, I just, to me, for him to show up, kiss his dad, be in a decent mood, hang out with him all day long, to letting this woman, this girl that was drugged out, cheating on him, take his life? No, he had kids.
Yeah.
He loved it. His family loved him very much. I mean, their lights went out that day.
Yeah.
And he didn't do this to himself.
No.
So he goes in and he gets into this. He must have went in and changed his clothes first.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really. So he goes in there and he has time to change his clothes and get in an argument with his girlfriend. Pull her out to the back shed, allegedly, and climb up the 16-foot pole, tie a rope, jump from it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have anything to stand on, by the way. There was nothing he could kick out from underneath him. And the measurements don't add on the rope.
No.
Because his mother has one part of the rope. The police have, I guess, the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that Bryant Dunaway won't come off of, but we'll get to that.
Yep.
So, I mean,
none of it adds up.
None of it adds up
To the story that the DA and the medical examiner have told.
Right.
No.
So when Lisa's there getting all this evidence and collecting all these things, not for keepsakes, not for good things. These are things that she wanted to use to get justice for Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
She goes into the house, and this is just a couple days after, this happened. And she said the bleach smell was so bad it burned her nose.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, these next two pictures that you see here, one is of the floor where he was allegedly killed, where he was allegedly beaten.
Right.
Right. And you can see in this picture very clearly that floor has been altered. Something has been put on that floor.
Some kind of chemical.
Yep. And with her saying that bleach smell was so strong, pretty obvious what bleach does to wooden floors.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like to me.
That's right.
But the other picture you're seeing here is a picture of the front door of the house,
mm-hmm.
where an investigator
mm-hmm.
went in and applied luminol to look for blood residue. And there's blood residue all over the casing of that door.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Like I said, to do all that in 30 minutes, to decide you're going to take your life in a house full of idiots,
Mm-hmm.
in a house full of idiots,
Mm-hmm.
to do that to your whole entire family is bullshit to me. He went in there. I believe that everybody in that house had something against him, whether it's he knew too much and he was leaving, or the girlfriend was, whatever it was, but the girlfriend was pissed off and that he left, and she was going to do what she, get this all planned out. Everybody had been into it, just like the 911 call said, all week. And everybody was methed out except for Aaron.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody that was present in that house is potentially complicit in all of this. Even his cousin, his girlfriend, the guy he was also trying to help too, that he thought was not a bad guy. They told him, you remember he told him to quit messing with him.
Yeah.
Was he still in the house?
I don't know.
He was. He's complicit in it. Just a 30,000 foot view of this for me is this guy got exposed to something very sinister and dark.
Yes.
And was a part of the crowd of people that those types try to get to do their dirty work. And in most cases do get to do their dirty work. So this house is just full of meth heads and, people that don't have jobs and would do anything for money or meth probably. Mm-hmm. And Aaron has, his moral compass is obviously more fixed than everybody else around.
Right.
He didn't want to participate in that stuff. And he told his mother that.
Right.
So we have, people that have, especially his mom, that can testify to the fact that he made that very clear.
Yes.
He got in too deep and he didn't know if he could get out. In fact, he didn't think he could get out.
He said he couldn't. And,
Right.
and when she asked him why he couldn't get out, he said, they won't let me. Who? The cops won't let me.
Right. So fast forward to him showing back up at this house to basically make his exit. He'd already found out that his girlfriend was cheating on him. He'd been in an argument with his cousin. Those are the two people he probably had the most interest in that house. But then there were other people there that were that had interest in this sinister thing that he saw.
Right.
Right. And so fast forward to the fact that he goes in there to make his exit, and he didn't go there on his own accord because he felt good about it. He was lured back there.
Right. Yeah,
Come
that's
get
luring
your
him in.
money. Yeah.
Just like we talked about a couple of weeks ago with Brent Flatt up there, who was lured into the home by 4 people and killed
Yep.
and robbed.
Yep.
It's, you know.
Yeah, I that's exactly what I totally agree. Then you look at the physical evidence and the pictures of all this. None of this supports that this guy just went out there and hung himself. Now, believe me, I've seen people that have done that to themselves, and I'm no expert, but I've witnessed it a few times directly, and not the action, but the aftermath. And that's not what this looks like.
His face has so much trauma.
Yeah.
His eyes. It's almost like they wanted to damage his eyes because maybe symbolically what he's seen.
Maybe.
His ears because of what he's heard.
Yeah, maybe. People in that situation think of the sickest shit to do to folks. And,
You know, they put themselves in that situation. I'm sorry. This is disgusting to me. And the whole idea that they've gotten to go this long.
Yeah.
And Bryant Dunaway. And we're back here with Bryant Dunaway.
Well, I'm getting to him because what I'm going to say to that, to introduce that, is we have, a mortician that's a professional person that's been doing it for more than 20 years that makes the statement that he makes.
That's
now,
right.
However broad or long you think that statement is, the truth is you can't refute what that guy says about his experience.
Right.
And he has no reason to lie. He has no reason to tell something other than what's very real in his face.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got that guy. And then you've got a medical examiner who performs an autopsy.
Dr. Terry Deering. Is that what his name was? Deering?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right.
Or Thomas.
But anyway, he performs this autopsy, and his findings are that, he hung himself, and that these dogs, these little 2-week-old puppies who barely have their eyes open if they do at all, have come up to this man's body and essentially crushed bones, opened up all these wounds, did all of this damage to him, these little 2-week-old puppies.
Oh, yeah.
I ain't buying it.
I'm
So that's where I say, here's an ME that's a professional, that's a medical doctor. And it looks to me like he's lying.
But, yeah, it looks like it. But even he had to admit in the autopsy that the bone, there was no damage to his neck.
Yeah, the hyoid bone and the soft tissues around it were not damaged.
No. And and let's say he had got a broke wrist somewhere. Did it happen before? Or did it happen during?
Yeah.
Did it happen before he climbed up this pole, according to them? That's the part that,
not a lot of clarity about that.
There's not a lot of clarity about that. And it does make a huge difference, because think about holding on to a pole that you've climbed up 16 feet with a broken right wrist and having to use your hand that you never used to tie yourself off.
Mm-hmm.
So either he went in and changed his clothes, broke his wrist real quick, and then decided to go out there and hang himself in front of his girlfriend.
Right.
See, and even this, she said that she didn't call immediately. I mean, she couldn't have called the 911 immediately. She said she runs in and tells everybody, and they just look at her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has to run up 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I mean? Like, this whole thing to me is just...
The pictures and evidence don't tell the story that the case was closed by.
I mean, like, okay, you might have been able to pull this off if he'd been there for a couple days, and nobody'd heard from him. But hell, his dad just dropped him off 30 minutes ago. So she's trying to tell me, or everybody, that, he comes in, they start an argument. So all this in 30 minutes. And they were able to cut him down too.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to cut him down before law enforcement even showed up. People left.
Mm-hmm.
And she's telling them on the phone. And I don't know if it was his girlfriend that was on the phone or if it was one of her family members called for her. So that means that she would have told them about it too.
Yeah.
I mean, the person said they've been down there fighting, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it again, the storylines don't add up. The evidence don't add up. And then you've got people that have, so we watched the Farrier Files.
Yes.
And this guy does a wonderful job putting these stories together so that people can get down to the point of what they're about and what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he ran an episode about this. He went and interviewed Lisa, talked to her. Lisa made some points in that interview that I think were very critical, showing that she had all this, physical evidence still. But after this was done, Brian Dunaway basically responded to Farrier with a statement. And that statement says, the autopsy performed by the medical examiners determined the cause of death of Mr. Aaron Key was hanging. The investigation does not indicate otherwise. Okay, you didn't do an investigation. If you had, you would have collected this evidence and not his mother. You would have locked the scene up. His statement continues on with, your story is subjecting a grieving mother to more stress. Now, in this interview that Mr. Farrier did with Lisa, yeah, she's grieving and she's been stressed out about it.
Of course.
But she is determined. Stop making her the focus of the reason you won't do something or that you think people shouldn't do something.
Right.
Because she wants something done.
And she wants something done.
And then he finishes by saying, I wish you were interested in reporting the truth. I don't have this trouble with other reporters.
As if his mother's telling a lie?
Yeah. So stop messing with her, but yet she's telling lies.
Yeah, don't mess with her, but she's grieving, but she's also lying.
A liar, yeah. Yeah.
But she's the one that has the evidence. And when she went and asked him for, so here's what the deal was. She asked him if he would, he comes and asks her about closing this case. She said, well, I want all the evidence you have. And no, we're never closing this case. Well, he'd already closed it.
Mm-hmm.
He had already closed the case in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't even know he'd closed the case.
Yeah.
I mean, and so why you want to hold on to that evidence you have?
Right.
Why are you bribing her? So you're telling Dennis Farrier that to back off of her. She's grieving.
Mm-hmm.
And then you turn around and say she's a liar.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you won't give her the evidence. You're messing with her head then too.
Oh.
Still has Aaron's wallet. Why? This is a closed case.
Yeah.
You not want her to take it to a private, somebody else to investigate this?
Mm-hmm.
What would that lead to? What are you hiding?
I think she's got enough evidence to go to anybody to investigate it.
Right. Yeah.
So, and the look on Mr. Farrier's face after he said that statement live was the best go to hell look I think he's ever given anybody. But this is, again, this is a very weak statement from Dunaway.
Oh, it shows his character.
Uh-huh.
And see, we've talked about his character the past several, weeks, months, and his character, there's zero compassion. And I feel like when somebody has that title and absolutely you need to have some compassion in your life. It's something. I mean, what's going on? What's going on in the 13th district?
Yeah. Well, and I think, we're finishing up here talking about this. I don't think this is it. I think we'll revisit it again. I think we'll be, I guess not forced to, but I think we'll be motivated to once this goes out.
Right. Yes.
And I think there's more stuff that we're not talking about here.
Yeah, and it always goes that way. We'll do an episode, and I'll be like, oh, I even have notes about it, and I forgot that part, and so and it never hurts to go back, and I'm asking anybody, Lisa specifically, in the comments to let us know anything that we're we've gotten wrong or we've left out or anything like that, because I want to get this right. I want to have everything out there just like you want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something I want to add here that came from the Ferrier files was he actually went and interviewed a very, very professional investigator.
Right? Yeah.
Wysocki.
Uh-huh. Yeah, she covered the Lauren Agee case.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And she made it clear that in the investigation that the puppies should have been tested for blood, that his face should have been tested for puppy saliva, and just all of the blatant stuff just from the photographs and the medical examiner's report, all of the blatant stuff that was just not even looked at.
And everything. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Aaron has been so disrespected all the way up till having someone write all over him with a magic marker.
Yeah.
I mean,
let me put that picture up right quick, because there was a magic marker left at scene. So you can see here in this picture, this magic marker that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Was apparently used to write all over his face and even on his belly and chest or something like that, right?
When did they do this? How did they have time to do this?
Yeah.
I mean, in all this time, this is not. It's like I said. This is not even. This is first degree, premeditated all the way.
Yeah.
If you ask me, I'm not. If you ask me.
Yeah. So I just, it's again, that 30,000 foot view is pretty simple to see that there's more than enough reason to investigate this even further, or have an outside person or body come in and investigate this. It's ridiculous.
And you know what? While you're there on that road, look for Caitlin.
Mm-hmm.
Look for Caitlin.
And bear in mind, there's been 3 or 4 other cases within a mile or two of there.
Yeah. Please look for Caitlin, because they were right beside, Aaron looked out for her at one point.
Yeah.
He's not here and we can't find her.
So Lisa told you of a specific interaction.
Yes, there was a specific interaction between Caitlin Ledbetter and Aaron at one point. We talked about in detail about her relationship with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And little bit. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what was the interaction with Aaron Shane Key?
Well, at one point, Caitlin ran to that house to get away from her dad. And Aaron stepped in front of her and got her dad away from her. He took up for her.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they crossed paths. And, now Caitlin's still out there somewhere.
Yeah. She hasn't been found.
No.
Somebody knows something. So don't be afraid to leave comments.
And let me say this. There's a picture we're going to put up of Aaron's headstone. And Lisa has let me know that beautiful flowers on it too. It's a beautiful headstone. It's got rabbits on it. His nickname was Rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
And she puts all the flowers together for him. She goes out there at Christmas and holidays, birthdays, and she puts all the flower arrangements up. And she said something to me today that just, it got me. She said, when I'm gone, no one will ever know who he was. So I want all these videos to be out there to know who Aaron was as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, we're trying. We're helping the best we know how to find peace for Rabbit and for Lisa.
That's right.
We've got a couple of more in line.
Yes.
For this. And I just want to remind everybody to share these videos.
Please do.
It's very important.
Yes.
And we appreciate you and your interest in what we do and your interest in correcting some of the wrongs as best we can as a group.
That's right.
So I look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. Again, thank you for watching. And a reminder that we're your host. I'm Ben.
Karen.
And y'all have a good one.